Warriors. Now back to Steiny and Guru.
All right, Matt Steinmetz now, the Guru Johnson with you. We're here for another half hour, and let's go talk to Monte Poole, NBC Sports,
the man,
Bay Area, joining us. Monte, I'm obviously going to start with Draymond Green. I'm actually not going to get you, instead of asking you what you think about it, I'm going to ask you more, because you're there. Do you ever get this? You think there are people in the organization or possibly teammates of Draymond Green that are just rolling their eyes about all they've been through with him?
I think there have been times when that happened. I mean, I know that happened back in October when Draymond punched Jordan Poole. There were some people, at least in the moment, that were just had it up to here, as they say, you know. And at the same time, those same people a month or two later were like, you know, we need Draymond, and you know, he's important to us. But yeah, I think that he has worn his antics over the years has worn on them. They always have, but they felt it was worth the value because of what he brought to them on the court. But as the years go by, yeah, it becomes harder and harder to say, yeah, you know, it's Draymond being Draymond. It gets harder, and I think the other night when you know, I don't think we did bonus was the thing that got to people. I think it's what happened after. You know, and he's done it before, and, you know, it's Draymond being Draymond. But I think these are all issues that contributed to him being suspended for Game 3. So, yeah, I think the Warriors know they've walked a fine line with him for a long time, and they're at the point where, you know, he's up to this season. He can opt out if he wants. And while I think, obviously, the Warriors would diss the hell out of him if he opts out, I think there's a few people over there that are like, you know what, if he opts out, so be it. I think there are a few people over there who will come to that realization. The question, though, is whether Stephen Curry is one of those people, and I don't think he is.
Yeah, I'm with you, Monty. That's great stuff. Let me ask you this. I know the Warriors are down 0-2, and I told Steiny this. You let me know if I'm being over the top. Wiseman is no longer a Warrior. I felt like they didn't empower him. You knew what he was before you brought him. Kuminga, Game 2, gets 4 minutes. I'm not saying he's perfect. Moody gets 8 minutes after just being a bump on a pickle. Monty, if I said this to you, you know what? I feel like the Warriors, and I won't second-guess Kirk because I can't with his resume, but I think the Warriors coaching staff has failed the young guys. Would that be too strong?
No, I don't think so. And I say that it's not just the coaching staff. I think let's go back to when they drafted James Wiseman. They drafted Wiseman not knowing what they had as a team. You know, they didn't have a very good year. And so they didn't know what quite to expect. And, you know, if you remember correctly, they drafted James like a short time after Clay was hurt. Maybe a day or two. It was right around the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think what happens is that they thought, okay, you know what? We may never get a chance to draft a Wiseman. We don't know how long it'll be. You know, he's 7'1", he runs the floor, he's got a scorer's touch. We can teach him defense. We got to go for it. And I totally understand that thought. But they did a couple of things that kind of threw that into the frying pan. One, the first one is that they played him immediately, you know, and that Steve Kerr has admitted that, you know, that was not the way to do this. I mean, they put him in a starting lineup after he missed much of training camp and no summer league, and there he was in the starting lineup opening night. That's not the best way to bring along a guy who was a teenager at the time. Two, I think this is the thing that people overlook. The Warriors won a championship last year, and they did not see that one coming. I mean, the others they saw coming. You know, 15, you thought it was building gradually. It got there. 16, yeah, they were defending champions. 17, hey, got KD. You know, and so all those years before, they were supposed to be to the finals. And last year, going into the season, they didn't know what they had. And when they got to the finals without James, they were like, well, maybe, you know what? Maybe this Wiseman thing, who we thought was going to have a 3 or 4 year run-up, maybe we don't have time for that because we're still good. Maybe we have to go with what we have right now rather than start planning for the future. And so that's why they traded James. And I know Lacob is still not over that one. He may never be. But they traded Wiseman because they realized that this core was still a quality core because they just won a championship. They just won a championship. And I talked to Bob Myers about this when I said, Bob, was that last year's championship, was that kind of a, wow, look what we did? And he just starts laughing. Because you did say, we didn't know what we had. We did not know what we had last year. We were gambling on guys. Otto Porter Jr. had been injured and didn't know if he'd be able to play. Belly was trying to prove he still belonged in the NBA. And so that championship changed their thinking. And that's why Wiseman's gone. I really believe that based on what I get from them and based on the logic of the fact that they think they can still win without him, which they did. And so they're going to try and play off this core. Now, I think, a couple of years from now, could they regret the trade? Absolutely they could. Absolutely they could. But they went for it now. They went for it now thinking, you know what, we have a shot this year. If we fix our point of attack defense, we have a shot this year. And one more thing about Wiseman. I'm not sure they played him properly defensively. I don't think they did. They couldn't decide, and there he was often in top coverage and looking like he was lost in no man's land. And they never really quite corrected that or had a direct approach to, here's what you need to do, James. We want you to do this. And if they did that, it didn't last more than a few weeks because there he was back again in top coverage, and he just wasn't good there. I mean, how many teenage big men can be in drop coverage and excel? So they mismanaged Wiseman for his entire time here for a variety of reasons, but they traded him because they thought we can't wait for him to be good. So they think he'll be good, and I think he'll definitely be good offensively. Defensively is
you still there, Monty?
That you know what? We won last year, but this year's a whole different year.
Yeah, it really is. Monte Poole joining us on 95.7 The Game. Before we let you go, Monty, what's at stake in this series if the Warriors lose?
I'm sorry, what was the what?
What's at stake in this series for the Warriors and their future?
Well, you've got a lot of things in the works here. Like I said, Draymond can opt out. Bob Myers' situation is tenuous. He could leave, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does. But I still think they're going to try and keep him because we know that would be the smart thing. And so it's really they need to, at this point, if they get bounced in the first round, I think they've got to say, okay, we got to start resetting. We got to start resetting right now. And like I said, they could begin. There's some regret about Wiseman among the people over there now, and there could be more this time next year. Because the rebuild or whatever they do, whether it's this year or next year, whatever they do ain't going to be pretty for a minute. Steph's going to be 36 next year, 37 the next year, and I don't doubt that he can play very well into his late 30s. But after that, we don't know what Jordan Poole is yet. They paid him to be a star. And we've seen this year, he's been a star one week, and he's been a disaster the next week.
Yeah.
And it's been like almost all season, up and down, up and down, up and down. And so far in the first two games of the playoffs, I know he's playing hurt, but he's been borderline unplayable. And that's reflected in his minutes.
Monty, thank you so much for joining us. And, you've done it all year, and hopefully we'll catch up with you if there's a second round.
There you go, buddy. Talk to you guys later.
All right, Monte Poole, NBC Sports Bay Area.